Hello and welcome to another excelattheoffice.com video. This is video 5 in my series on how to do Excel dashboards properly, where I take you through slowly and methodically how you can learn how to create dashboards. I'm creating a Dunder Mifflin people dashboard based on a data set which I took you through in, I showed you the dashboard in video 1, I showed you how to create the data and all the calculations and format it all nicely in video 2, and then video 3 we created the various pivot tables. Video 4 I created in the last video the dashboard space, and I created the title area, showed you how you can create these headings, icons and such, readying the space for when we have the charts. In this video I'm going to show you the charts and graphics. There's 24 in all. Some of them I'm going to speed through or just copy and encourage you to create them because they're similar to other ones. This is in terms of the steps, this is step 5 of my dashboard. So you've done the hard work in terms of getting the data ready and also getting the pivot tables summarizing that data. Now this is where the nice bit comes in, and for your end users, creating charts and graphics that present the data in a nice way, a pleasing way, a clean way, so that people can understand at a glance what's going on. So we're going to cover simple counts, bar charts. I'm going to show you how to generally improve the appearance of charts. We'll resize and format things. We'll copy and paste the formatting of one chart to another to save time. We've done all the text box titles and icons around the charts, and some variety with pie charts. Now just as some, if I go to my notes here, some of the important things I want to convey for you. So we sorted out the page formatting for the dashboard when we did the canvas in the last video, but just generally I'd advise you to use a consistent formatting for the charts. So in this instance my dark teal color scheme is for most charts, but where something is bad I'm color coding that as red, and I'm differentiating things using color. So just be subtle but try and be a bit clever with the color coding. Obviously with sex and ethnicity, try and avoid offense. Try and keep those neutral colors, so don't be using blue and pink for male and female, or even worse, using white and other colors for I've seen that before in some public sector organizations. Just frankly embarrassing, using white to display white people, and then other colors can be construed as interpreted as representing those races. So don't do that. Use neutral colors. It's good to have a variety of your charts to make it more pleasing to interact with, but also pick the right chart for the job. So when you're using top 5 things, nice sideways bar charts are good, but when you want to show the proportions of things, stacked bar charts are good, or if you want to use a simple proportion of one thing, a donut or pie chart. So bar charts are quite good, pie charts, and we'll come on to the slicers next. And all these charts here are indeed pivot charts because they derive from pivot tables, but we're going to make them look nice and pleasing for your viewer. And then the final sprinkle of gold dust will come when we add the slicers to manipulate those pivot charts so that the report becomes interactive and not just a static top level view. So that's a bit of quite a long intro, but let's begin. So the first thing I want is a total employee headcount and full-time equivalent from my pivot tables. And if I just zoom in a bit, so I just want this number here and this number here. I don't want the wide decimal, so 49 and 46 or whatever when I create a slicer, whatever those are displaying. Now the simple thing to do here is just insert a text box So I'm just going to select out of that one, go to Insert, right over to the right here, text box. I'm going to remember my hold down Alt trick to keep it aligned to the cell edges. And in this text box, rather than type anything, I'm going to just select the text box, go up here to the formula bar, go to equals, and we're going to reference this pivot table. But we don't want to click in the pivot tables because it does all this weird get pivot data nonsense. So what we need it to do to work is equal a cell reference. So for a quick way of doing that, to get it to reference a cell reference rather than the pivot. So the way to do this is just select the cell next to it and then adjust the formula so that it's actually referencing the next column along. So D6. So I want to reference that for my head count, and then you just press enter. So there we go. That's how you can get a text box dynamically reflecting a graphic, a pivot, a piece of data, and then what we can do is format that text box. So I'm going to centralize everything, put it in the middle, increase my text size, make it oversize, bold, and then make it my dark teal color. You could even go Arial Black's quite a nice bold text color. So that's my head count. Unfortunately, the text box comes with some auto formatting, so we're going to need to turn that format off. So under the shape format, and then my shape fill is going to be no fill because I want just the white background showing through. And shape outline, again, no outline. Next, Control C, Control V to copy and then paste something. Move it next to it under the FTE thing, and instead of D6, I know my next column along where my FTE is, not my head count, is E6. So unfortunately that, annoyingly, that resets the format. So what you can do is take this text box, use the format painter up here, and then select the other text box, and there we go. I haven't got to centralize everything, make the text different colors and sizes and all that. So we now have our first 2 of 24 graphics for this immense dashboard, albeit it's on one page, but it's everything an HR professional would ever want to know about their people, all the key metrics, all the performance and other metrics. Next, we're going to go to salary costs, and this is why we did the pivots in some kind of order, because maybe not quite some order. So the salary costs and bonus overall, this is the data I want. So what I'm going to do is just select somewhere in the pivot table. I'm going to go to Insert. I want a stacked 2D bar. Click that one. So there's my starting position. But what I want to do is get it to look like I've done on my ready-made dashboard, which is just a simple green for dollars and money, and bonus as a golden kind of touch. A stacked bar with my core salary bonus in it. So coming back to this one, the first thing to do on any pivot chart, which happens with pivot charts, for some reason Excel wants to add all this boring nonsense around it. What I want to do is right click on one of those fields and hide all field buttons on chart. So that's a good one. And I don't need this total area either. I'm going to delete that. And while I'm here, I'm going to, in my design, I don't want the legend beside it. I want it at the top. So go to my chart element, and I want the legend at the top, and I'm going to just move it down. So there we go. Now as well, I don't want these outer lines because I want my chart clean. So what I'm going to do is select the chart area, format, and then no shape outline for those. And also I don't want these grid lines either, so I'm going to delete those. And I don't need a axis label here. I'm going to delete the total. But what I do want is a axis labels underneath to show the volume of things. So under the axis I want the primary horizontal, because then from there I can also manipulate this, because it's giving me a visual impression that the salary total is less than a bonus because the axis is skewed. So I'm going to right click and format that axis, and the minimum, I'm not going to allow it to auto, I'm going to have 0 as my minimum and allow the auto to the maximum. So then that will adapt every time. I'm also going to select a bar, and under my gap width I'm going to bring that down to about 40% to make it wider, maximize the space. I'm going to select the whole chart, go to home, and instead of this Aptos narrow I like to choose Arial. It's a more readable format. I'm going to make my axis labels bold. I've got a video, by the way, on doing next level charts if you wanted to create something a bit more spectacular, but I'm just doing it the simple way here. I'm going to make my legend wider and bigger, and also my labels bigger. And then just for now, the last thing for now is I'm going to make this bar, I'm going to format the bar as green, and I'm going to format this stack of the bar as gold, and there we go. That's pretty much there. So I've got it generally right. Now I'm going to Control X to cut it, and I'm going to Control V to paste it in my dashboard. My fill of my chart, I don't want any fill, so no fill, so it makes it transparent. But the size is all wrong, so what I'm going to do is just hold down Alt, bring it in to the bounds of my salary chart area, and I'm going to maximize this chart area within the overall bounds so that it's a lot bigger. No one wants a tiny little oblong right there. It's easier to see in this way, and I'm just going to move this legend a bit. So there we go. So we got the salary and bonus. I'm actually going to make that a bit smaller. And what I'm going to do is just zoom in a little bit as I'm working on a particular thing. I'm actually going to make this slightly narrower. So I've got my salary and bonus. Any text, I'm going to make that dark teal color, so both the legend, the title is already done, and also the axis. A little trick with the axes, if your text is getting a bit too overbearing, you can also use Arial narrow, which takes up a little less space, so you can get more in there. That's what she said. Okay, so that's the salary costs. Oh, my chart has an outline, so I need to have border with no line on here. Just while we're here, your workflow, you might choose to use these quick elements of the chart, so choosing your axes from here. But in any case, with that chart, I've got rid of the titles because I've got my own manual title in a text box here. I've formatted the chart. So now let's get on to something a bit more simpler, which is this headcount summary area. And I want to make it look a bit like this. So I've got a couple of pie charts and a couple of bar charts. So first of all, by location, let's start there. So how many people are in the UK and USA? And you might notice I'm using, for everything else other than here with FTE, I'm using headcount because we're interested in actual bodies, actual individuals. So I go to my pivots area at the top, my employee overview section, headcount by location. I'm going to insert and a simple 2D pie. This time let's Control X and get it straight on the dashboard. Control V. So again, I'm going to right click one of my data field buttons. I'm going to hide all field buttons on chart. I don't want my title, so I'm just going to select and delete that. And I don't actually need the legend on this one because I'm going to incorporate it within my data labels. Now I need to just resize the chart, so I'm going to bring that up here a little bit. With pie charts, you don't need to make them oblong, but we do want to maximize the space, so I'm going to bring it down here and maximize it around here. So there we go. And even if you want to maximize the space further, you can bring your chart area within closer to the bounds of the whole chart graphic. So that's that. I'm going to have my USA formatted in red, so select once and then select again slowly, and then that allows you to select just one thing rather than the whole chart. And then my UK in this nice bold blue. What I need to do is my chart options. I want no fill, no line, so it's quite helpful having this format chart area bar up on the right. And then I'm going to right click on any selection and add my data labels. That's the quickest way I find doing it. And then select one of those data labels to then go over here under label options, because you've already got your format bar set up. Under the little icon there, label options, and then expand label options again. This time I want the category name as well to show. So there we go, I got my UK and USA, and I don't want best fit, I want it always inside the end. So on a pie chart, inside end means inside but near to the edge of the circle. I'm going to go back to my home because I've got my quick text formatting options here. Going to create bold for that. It's going to be Arial, and I want to oversize that as much as I can. And in this instance, white text on a colourful background is quite readable and okay. So there we go, I've got my locations. I might just minimize that slightly, make it a slightly smaller by holding down Alt as I bring the bounds in. If you're getting text that overflows, you can select the labels and then select a label again to manually format and maneuver that particular label, so you can do the labels one at a time. But select out of it, select a label again, that'll select both. So similar to what happens with the actual categories themselves, when you select that, that selects the whole bar, the whole chart, sorry, but if you select again, that selects just that segment to be able to format. Next, as I've just done a pie chart, I'm going to choose the full or part-time. Now I've got room for it underneath. So over here, my head count by full or part-time, I'm going to select the pie chart, insert pie, 2D pie there. And this time I'm going to Control X to cut it, bring it to my dashboard space, Control V. And this time I'm going to, here's your shortcut, Control C, select a chart that you like, Control C, and then Control V, paste it on the chart that you don't like, and look at that, I've already been given a head start with my formatting for this particular chart, and now all I need to do is make it the same sort of size and just change the colours a bit. So I'm going to bring that in slightly. I mean, that's a quite neat little trick, isn't it? Bring that to the bounds here. I've obviously made that first chart way too big, so I'm going to bring that back a bit. Oh, so you have to select it and then hold down Alt as you bring it down to size. So now those are a similar size, and all I need to do is change the colours, because obviously I liked the red and blue to denote the different countries, but in this instance now I want to go back to my default grey, teal and dark teal colour scheme. So I'm going to go to my dark teal for full time. So I'm going to select the chart and select again for the segment I want. Under this format data point I want my dark teal, and under the other slice I want just a mid grey. So there we go. Now I want a simple bar for my function. So I'm going to go back to my pivots, and this is why it's quite helpful to give your pivot tables a title. So a head count by function, insert is already selected, a 2D bar. 2D is so much better than 3D. 3D just looks really kind of 1990s and lame, and I like things on a clean white background, just again because it looks nice and sleek rather than a bit like someone's trying to over design something and make things fancy, and it never works out well. I haven't got a chart format that I can ready copy and paste, but let's go through again. So what we want to do, let's delete the key. We don't need a key for something of there's only one of. We know it's head count because our title says so, so we don't need the legend or the title. I want to right click and hide all field buttons on chart, so it's focusing in on the actual data. So I'm going to keep the axis labels because that can be helpful, but I mean you don't need to. I mean, let's remove those actually. Delete the axis labels, because what we would do here is right click and add data labels to these. And these data labels, I'm going to select the labels, go to my format area, label options, and again go inside end. And I'm going to make those bold and white text, so that looks kind of swish. And I'm going to select my whole chart, and instead of this horrible Aptos, I'm going to choose Arial. And I should have done that first because that reformats anything that you've done, so just be aware of that. I'm going to make my labels a bit more noticeable, and I'm going to format those labels in my dark teal, as I am going to format the bars in dark teal. So again, I'm using some quick formatting things from the home thing, the home ribbon, but you can use your right click format chart area, brings up this on the right hand side. So keep this open on the right, it's just handy for your workflow. I don't need these grid lines because it just adds busyness where we're dealing with quite low numbers here, and it has a more of an infographic feel when you get rid of, ironically, the graphic, the Excel graph lines and thing formatting around it. And then, as I did before, I'm going to go to my format data series. Under the series option, the gap width, again 40% is a good magic number that beefs up your bars, beefy bars, and presents them nicely. And then the final couple of things to do, I'm going to select my entire chart area again, go to my format chart options, no fill, no line, nothing, all nice and clean. And then I'm going to press Alt to just bring that in, make it take up less space, so over here, and residing under my ready-made title that you created in the last video. So that's my people by function. I might even make this chart area, plot area, slightly bigger to maximize the use of the chart. Next, I'm going to go to my pivots and do the same thing but for seniority, and we've got a quick shortcut here. So I'm going to insert my bars. I'm going to Control X to bring it out of there and put it in my dashboard somewhere. But again, rather than do all those formatting bits again, I'm just going to select the chart I like, Control C, make sure you're selecting the whole chart, nothing but the chart, Control V on the chart I don't like, and then suddenly my dislikable chart has become likable. Although I've just realized that the background to the fill of the plot area isn't no fill or no line, so I'm going to need to change that on both if I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. So there we go, I've got my people by seniority 2, and because I organized my pivot table in order of seniority, now my chart is also in the correct order. Sometimes you have to do it a bit back to front if it's not working one way. Then what you can do is under the axis options you can choose the categories in reverse order button. See what that does? So just have a fiddle around with that if it's not going the right way for you. So obviously if you're using this follow along, you'll have it already, but if you're using this video to understand how you make your own dashboard with your own data, and you can do from any kind of data, then that's a handy little tip. So if I just zoom out a bit, we've got our first set of charts on this dashboard, which is just nice as a nicely presented report is coming along, but obviously later on the slices is what makes the magic happen and creates it as an interactive dashboard rather than just a dashboard. So next, working our way down further, the cost by department. So go back to our pivots, go to costs, salary and bonus by department. What I'm going to do is insert a, you guessed it, stacked 2D bar. So not 100% stacked bar, because that's giving the proportionality of things, but the absolute value. So if I'm reporting this, if I'm in finance in particular, I want to see who's what's the most costly area. And funnily enough, in Dunder Mifflin, it's the most senior people that are paid more. So I'm going to Control X with this whole chart and bring it into dashboard, Control V. And let's try my existing chart here. If I Control C on that one, Control V on that. Yes, nice. See how that has now created my formatting pretty much correctly. I might need to, my text color for this one might need to change because it's often exceeding the bounds. So actually for this set of series labels, I'm going to format them a darker color, and I might even, under the label options, put them under at the inside base. Seems to present them a bit clearer. I also probably want to make them slightly smaller so they don't encroach on their neighbouring bars. So I'm going to make this, I'm going to hold down Alt and bring this in my chart area. I don't need the salary and bonus legend again. Or actually I've got space to put it to the right here, so I'm going to just bring this, I'm just going to bring this together, make it narrower, and it'll automatically list things like this. So then what I can do then is bring my chart up and maximize this use of space so it's a bit more easily seen. What the copy and the formatting has done is copy the fact that I don't have any axis labels denoting the department. This is where this chart element's quite a helpful shortcut. Just under axis, I'm going to check the primary vertical, so I'm going to incorporate that, and now I can start to see this. And under the home, I'm going to format this as Arial narrow, so then you can make the text a bit wider. And then I'm going to use my teal color and make it bold so it's a bit more visible. So now I've got my cost by department as well. Oh, one thing I haven't done is do this in order. So what you might want to do on your pivot table so that the chart presents things in order is choose a sort option for the pivot, and I want it descending by salary. That's going to normally give the biggest amount. So I've got that descending. Go back to my dashboard, and now my chart is showing up nicely. So there we go. I can even make that bigger. I've got space to now. Just click that plus off again. Right, now we're going to do the sickness rate. So I'm going to zoom in here. So what I want to emulate is the average rate, which is a text box Bradford factor, but I'm going to use a donut chart and place a false legend in the middle, which is basically a text box, so that you haven't got a faff about with the legend that the Excel makes in the graph, and then my top 5 scores. So let's do that. So my text box can start with something I've already got. So if I go to one of those early text boxes I created, Control C, and bring it over here, Control V, and use Alt to line things up. Now this is what I want this to reference, the cell for sickness. So here's my sickness. So that cell is D49, and you can see the cell reference here, it's D49. So what I want is on my dashboard, instead of equals pivot D6, I want D49, so that's always going to reference that cell. To change the formatting, I'm not going to use the format painter because this is a percentage, so I'm just going to manually change the font again to kind of make it oversized and intuitive to look at. Next, I'm going to create my breadth factor rating donut pie chart. So I'm going to select the pivot. I'm going to go to Insert, Pie, and just for a bit of fun, donut. I'm going to bring it in, Control X to my dashboard area, and this time I'm going to go through the motions of all the fill and that quite quickly. So hold your horses. No fill, no line. The actual chart area, no fill, no line, because there's a chart area within the chart area, which is a bit weird. I'm going to right click, hide all field buttons on chart, because I don't want all those techie looking pivot table field buttons. I don't want my legend. I don't want my title. I just want a nice clean chart, which I can bring into this breadth factor space, and this is what I've made earlier. In terms of this text box. So this is a series of text boxes basically that I've done, and I've grouped them together. So by selecting them all, and then let's say I had all 4 selected, you right click and group together. They're already grouped together because it's one I made earlier. But that's how you do it. You just insert normal text boxes and format the text in each. It's a bit of a kind of hardcore way of going about it, but it does have a nice result where you can then put this donut, overlaying it, and now if I just bring it in, the bounds of it, so it does look rather small. That's what she said. But for now, I'm going to increase the size of those donut rings. What you do with that, a bit like the chart width, under the select the donuts itself, go under the series options, and instead of the gap width, the equivalent to gap width is the donut hole size. I want to bring that down to about 50%. Maybe that's even a bit too much. About 60%, so I can still see the legend now through that. I might want to be particular and move the legend. Currently that's behind the donut chart, so what you'd have to do is right click, send that to back, right click this and send that to the back again, and that has brought that text, your legend text, to the fore. So now we can move it as one because I've grouped them all together, and place it more in the center. Now on my donut I want to add the values again, so I'm going to right click and add data labels. I'm going to make those first of all Arial, a bit bigger and bold and white, so they stand out. And then I know that this is my high. There's 5 in the high breadth factor. You can check this out just on your data, just marry it up. Oh yeah, which ones are the which categories. My medium, so just select that slice, is 6. My low is the majority of people, green, and nil, even greener because they've got no breadth factor. Next I want to bring in my breadth factor scores, so I'm going to insert a simple 2D bar here. I'm going to Control X, bring it to my dashboard space, Control V. For this I'm going to start off with something that's pretty close to good formatting, so I'm going to Control C on that entire chart and Control V on this one. So it's and I'll probably want to make that a bit smaller. So that's generally right, although I need to just make sure it's no fill and no line in that central chart area. I want to make this a bit narrower, and because it's names I'll probably need to make that smaller text and Arial narrow, so that's getting that in there. And these data labels, they're not always showing on because some are shorter than others. That's what she said. So I want my label options to be on the outside end, and now I can't see them, so I'm going to make the text red because this is top 5 Bradford factor scores, which is bad. So I'm going to also make my text under home a dark red, and my bars also red. So it's quite handy just to start with something that's nearly there and then do the finishing touches to get it fully there, to save you recreating all the things again. I'm going to bring it into my space, and actually it's in the wrong order, so on this instance I'm going to select my categories. I'm going to go to my axis options and choose the categories in reverse order. So I've got my top person at the top, which is Pete Miller in this case, based on my dummy data if you're using this to follow along, and my bottom person at the bottom, which is Todd Packer, and if you've watched The Office, then he really is a bottom person. Now, on to complaints. Hope you're still with me and getting the gist of this. My complaints area, stupidly I haven't put it right next to my sickness area, but I have been just somewhat organised and put it in its own section. So I've got my top 5 complaint persons and the complaints by function. Now I want to emulate this dashboard. So I've got my donut chart again, and in this case I'm just using a key next to it, and my complainants is very much like my Bradford factor scores. So actually for that one I'm going to let you create that using the formatting from the Bradford factor one, and I'm going to quickly run through the donut. So to create the donut, complaints by function, I'm going to insert my pie and donut option. I'm going to Control X and then Control V to place it roughly within my chart area. Hold down Alt to be a bit more precise with my boundaries so that they align with the cell margins. This time I've already got a donut somewhere that's quite nice, so I'm going to start off with this, Control C and then Control V for this. But what I do want is my legend, so I'm going to quickly add the legend to it. And I want to change the color scheme and move my legend over here and move my donut chart a bit over to the right. So sometimes Excel doesn't want to play ball and let you move things right over, so that's annoying. So just minimize it slightly. Then you can get the flexibility to move it to the right and then start to maximize it again. I know Excel, weird, it has these bugs in it. So I'm going to make this this oversized legend, and I'm going to make my admin. I'm going to select the slice for admin, and I'm going to choose a, let's just do 50 shades of teal, shall we? So, and then corporate, just to keep in with my color scheme, corporate can have the dark section. Sales, they generate the money, so let's leave them green. And support, they're the people in the background, so let's have them a bit grey. So those are the complaints by function. And then top 5 complaints, I'll let you go ahead and create that. Give it a go. Then use this as a starting point, and we shall reconvene. So just zooming out a bit again on our pager. So we've got the employee key information and overall salary information. We've got the head counts of where people are, costs by department, the sickness and other related metrics useful for HR monitoring, who's being complained about and which departments they reside in. Under the CPD and performance, we created these pivots here. So the PDR rating for the pie donut chart, whether or not the CPD is up to date, and the top 5 sales by function. What I'd like you to do is go ahead and create the latest PDR score, because that's similar to this Bradford factor donut chart with even the manual legend in the middle, if you like. Go ahead and also create a top 5 sales reps based on, like we did Bradford Factor scores, but instead of bad, that's good, so format it green. And I'll now show you how to create this proportional pie chart because it's slightly different. And I'll just show you this one because I'm trying to keep this video to a manageable, tolerable length. So the CPD updated. Out of the 49 people, there's 16 who didn't have their CPD up to date and 33 who do. But I don't want that shown as 16 and 33. I want it shown as percentages. So what I'm going to do is insert my simple 2D pie. Control X, bring that into my dashboard area. I'm going to zoom in because this helps focus. And I'm going to start from something that's pretty good. So let's start with one of these early pie charts. So I'm going to select the whole chart, Control C, select the new one, Control V to paste it. Now I don't want the labels there. So under the label option, I'm not going to have the category name, but I don't want the value, I want the percentage. And that's the minor difference. That's the only difference. But what we can do then, now we know that yes is good, no is bad. Actually, I do want the label options because otherwise this category name, sorry, yes and no. Otherwise people won't know what they're looking at, particularly if they're colorblind. So color is useful, but just bear in mind not everyone can see. Particularly red and green, that's the most common colour blindness. Little tidbit of information for you there. Right, I'm going to bring this roughly into shape with my Alt and drag to bring it to the cell margins. So yes is good, so I'm going to select that particular slice and make it green. No is bad, so I'm going to select the alternate slice and make that red. So CPD and performance up to date once you've done the other two. Let's go to diversity profile. So this time we're going to do go to our pivots, and in the diversity section, where is it? Demography. We want the head counts by sex, ethnic group and age, but I want those as 3 bars as I did on this dashboard, so it almost looks like it's one chart. But they are actually 3 different graphics of the 24. But it's quite handy how they're presented. So if I go to the way to do that, let's start with sex at the top, male, female. I'm going to insert my stacked bar again, 2D stacked bar. But I don't want this time, I don't want it as the absolute values of stacked bar. I want it as insert 100% stacked bar because I want to know the proportionality of my colleagues, not the absolute volumes. And be careful where you paste it. I didn't know where I pasted it then, so select something in the vicinity of where you want to paste it. Control V to paste. I don't need my legend again. Yeah, I don't need my legend again. I'm going to start from fresh with this one rather than use something else because it's going to be a bit different. So get rid of these grid lines, and I want to add the data labels to each category. I want to hide my field buttons. I want to make my chart fit into the space for which I've got provided for it, which you'll need to add in manually your different titles above each chart to try and emulate. Oh, you don't need titles, sorry, because the demographics say it all, so the categories say it all. So let's take up about 1/3 of the space, but the chart is very skinny, so I want to select these. By the way, I don't want any fill or border on the chart or within the chart area. The inner chart area itself, so no borders, no lines, just very clean cut. But what I do want to do is under the options, the overlap or the gap width, sorry, I want to make that as wide, probably even a bit wider, as wide as possible, so it's filling up the whole area. under my label options, go under here, open up the options again. I want the category, the series name, sorry. So that's male. It's interpreting each thing as a different series. And there's male and female. I'm going to select each in turn. Oh, by the way, I'm going to select the whole chart, make everything Arial text. Then I'm going to select each series label, make it white and bold. White and bold. And then my labels along the bottom, I'm going to make my standard teal color for visual effect. Yeah, and I might even make my chart area just fully bigger. And what you can do then is do the other two using this one as your basis. So get that first one right, and once you've got it right, if I select as well, I could probably make that a bit bigger within the chart bounds. So you get the first one right, and then you can add the other two afterwards. So I'll let you go ahead and do that while we then look at length of service. So getting the other two, you're going to do it by ethnic group and head count, so inserting those stacked bars 100%, but then copying and pasting from that one to the next two, if you see what I mean, like we've done before. So length of service, you're getting the hang of this now, aren't you? You don't need me to show you how to insert these because they're pretty much the same as the functional charts. So you can again, on the pivot table, we're going to, under the service length, right click and insert a chart for these, and right click and insert a chart for these, and you're going to copy and paste respectively the sales reps one for the top 5, but this time format it in that dark teal, and the categories for the length of service categories. And if you need to use the categories in reverse order, go ahead. So again, I'm not going to just show you how to do something I've already shown you, because this video is already long enough. And then what we can do is a different chart is for the salary gaps. Now I want to create the salary gap chart for you. So if I go to my pivot table, because that's quite important to represent where are the so I've got all the salary info in one area, salary and bonus by sex. So this is my total salary and bonus. So this one is going to be, if I go to right click, insert a 2D column this time, and it starts out just a simple 2D column like that, where they're next to each other. Control X, bring it into my dashboard space. Now again, get rid of all these field buttons, do all the stuff like the fill, no border, and all that. Bring it down to size, but the key difference, I'm going to hurry up through this because I'm getting near to an hour now. I'm going to delete the titles. So what I'm going to show you, instead of them being really far away, under the series options, the gap width, instead of 219%, bring that right down to about 10%. So then you can format from there and show some really chunky charts, and if necessary, also add your data labels to those. And then when you've got one right, you can format the other. And then similarly, the monthly data on the pivots is simply the, here's the months, insert a chart for that. Again, it's a 2D column, and then just make it look nice as I've shown you with the others. Let's just do that one as a quick finale, shall we? So we're going to insert a 2D column, because this is slightly different for head count. I'm going to select it, Control X, bring it to my dashboard space, because what I want to do actually is squeeze it and make it, I'm going to paste it here, we're going to make it really elongated. So I'm bringing it right to the, I might need to even zoom out a bit, right to the bounds of this, bring it within the bounds at the top. See, once you get the hang of it and you create charts for fun almost, it's really straightforward. But what we want to do is take away the title. We don't want that taking up space, nor the field buttons. You can see it's already looking better. And again, select them, reduce that gap width. Oh, it's under the series options, isn't it? So even when you've been doing this ages, you kind of get lost sometimes in Excel. 40%. I'm going to home, format those as teal, format my titles as teal, axis labels, also my amounts, and you can even add data labels to these as well. Format those as teal, so no matter where someone looks, they can't possibly miss that all the birthdays are pretty much coming up in March and April. Probably because their parents were obviously getting busy the summer before. So there's a lot of March and April babies in that office for the party planning committee. You can do the other final touches like the grid, choose your grid lines and whether or not you've got that. Select the chart and make sure there's no fill and no outline. But you get the gist of that. I've left you some of the charts to do yourself. I've shown you how to do every chart. But that's quite a long video, but I hope you find that helpful. Once you've got everything in place, what you will have then, if I show you my ready-made one, is the dashboard. And as I did before, we hid all the other rows and columns. We made it fit on a page. So you've already got a dashboard to present a report based on all your data. But what I'm going to show you in the next video is the pièce de la résistance, which is the filters which make that dashboard interactive. So no matter what you select, let's say here's our UK people, how much they're costing, who they are, what function they're in, how many complaints they got. I can send this report. If I'm Toby Flenderson, I can send this report to David Brent, who manages up the UK office, and then similarly I can do a USA report and send that to Michael Scott, who manages the US office, or probably more someone senior at corporate. So we'll just cover that in the next video, but yeah, it's been a bit of a long one, this one, but it is the time consuming bit to get right. But you're going to create some fantastic charts now. I believe in you. Godspeed, and until next time, take care.